Welcome back to the Real Marc Bagwell, a wrestling docuseries. I'm your host, the chosen lawyer. And today we have two very esteemed guests. One is an alumni back from our show previously, Mr. Howard Helm. And we have singer Todd Plant. The two of them combined are part of the mastery that brought us to this world a very special wrestling theme song, American Males. Gentlemen, welcome back to the Real Marc Bagwell.
It's great to be here.
Excellent to be here.
Now, before we get started, let's do a little show and tell, because I can already tell this is going to be one of the fun things that we have very similar personalities. We like graphic t-shirts. Todd, don't call me Greg Brady. I don't know if anybody's ever told you look a little like Greg Brady, but yes. Okay.
Yes, I've heard that.
Let's talk about that shirt, because that shirt is fire.
Oh, the 50th anniversary Doobie Brothers shirt.
Was that back from 1976 or was that recent?
No, it's recent. They're on their 50th tour. Oh, you knew that. God.
No, I thought they were on their 100th. I wasn't sure.
Oh, yeah, they could be. They could be.
There's a lot of groups on their 50th right now.
That's true.
So they just had a recent. So you were there. Were you participating at all? What's the scoops?
No, I'm in a Doobie Brothers tribute band.
Yes.
And I just happen to have this T-shirt, and that's just the one that I grabbed. I'm not making a statement here,
Right.
but
It's setting a good. It's setting a good tone, though, Todd. And Howard, what are you wearing there today?
What is this? I believe it's some kind of Russian stout from the heck's the name of the brewery in Salt Lake City.
Russian stout beer from
stout
Salt Lake
beer.
City.
Yes, it's a beer shirt. It's a beer shirt. I'm a beer guy. I'm a home brewer.
here.
So
Amazing.
I do all anything to do with beer. I'm there.
And
As a
Todd,
matter of fact, you know what I just brought home from Toronto? I just brought home Rush beer.
Rush beer.
Rush beer.
I must have some.
I'll tell you what, man, it's made by Henderson Brewing. It's great. I
hope
grabbed my brother and I grabbed the last 2 6-packs that were at the beer store that we hit before we head to the airport.
Rush beer. I hope it's
Rush
not.
beer.
I hope it's not flat. Oh, sorry.
No,
Sorry,
actually,
but-
it's very good. Like I said, the brewery that makes it's Henderson Brewing. I don't know anything about them. I thought it might have been one of the big guys, but it's not. And I think it's only available in Ontario.
Probably, but for those of you who are interested and big fans of Rush, there is such a thing called Rush beer.
Yep.
And I have a chosen Journey shirt. I have a baseball shirt on from the baseball series I do with Steve Carsey. So some baseball
Beautiful.
fun.
Nice.
While we
Cool.
also have the Marc Bagwell set. Mark sends his regards. He is currently in a rehab facility right now, undergoing some assistance. He's doing very well and sends his regards. And all is good. So he apologizes he could not be here, but it's going to be in his honor today, a very special theme, because for the first time ever, and from a lot of investigating and talking to Mr. Howard in the previous episodes, we have uncovered the lead singer from American Males, Mr. Todd Plant, in the flesh.
Yeah, that's him. There's a lot of WCW stuff that Todd sang.
Oh
on.
yeah,
A lot of stuff.
Well, we're
I
going to
bet
make
there's
them
some-
wait for a moment, because we're not going to just go into the big finale, of course. So
Yeah.
first and foremost, let's get to know the man, Mr. Todd Plant. Todd, I saw your resume, got to hear some of your songs. Love to hear in your own words. Tell us about your musical journey, odyssey in life, my friend.
Oh.
Where did it all
Have you
begin
got-
for
have you
you?
got
When
a
did-
couple hours? No, I was.
Oh, sure. We're going all
I
the
mean,
time.
no. Listen, I really wasn't very good when I was a teenager. I tried, learning guitar after. Oh, before that, clarinet in a marching band.
Mm.
But at least I learned some theory. And then I said, chicks don't dig the clarinet. So I got a, guitar. And I wasn't good at that. But people kept inviting me out to jams to sing. I said, oh, okay. I see how this works. and I've been singing and learning guitar ever since.
I don't know if you
And-
recall the flute from American Pie with Bandcamp, but we're not going to go there, Todd. So we're going to continue with your singing. So clarinet did not go. And so you were not singing from the time you were born or 4 years old. You grew into singing later on.
I think I was, now I did a little bit of choir stuff in junior high, but no, I wasn't a child prodigy or anything. But I just, started getting into, jamming with guys and getting into bands. I went in the Navy, U.S. Navy Seabees, went around the world, and I started learning from all these other cats from everywhere and all these different styles and entertaining the troops. I would be like the only guy forming a band. It wasn't that good of a band, but they had a band. And we, when I got out, I did all kinds of different bands and started getting into recording. And eventually ended up in a band called Eyewitness.
Good name.
And that one morphed into a band called Millennium, and we got a record deal and went to Europe, and it was signed a small British deal, and that I got more and more recording, and eventually I was kind of like the house guy at Morrisound. Jim would call me up or Howard and hey, I got something for you. And I learned how to do all different styles and learned from them how to take a little bit off, how to add a little bit more grit, and that came in handy with the wrestling themes.
So
and then Jimmy Hart came walking in one day, and the rest is history.
The rest is history.
So let's start off with, before we go there, at what point in stage of your life did you say to yourself, okay, this is what I'm going to do full time. I can make a living out of this. When did that light bulb go on over your head, Todd?
I've never really made a living at it. I mean, seriously, I've made some nice money on the side, but I've always had that day gig. I work in the defense contractor industry. I won't say what company, but I've been there 25 years, making widgets for the troops.
Making widgets like tanks, bazookas, things of that nature?
I
Can't talk about
disclose or no.
I can't. As a lawyer, I can tell you,
you
cannot confirm or deny. Next question. Well, interesting. Yes. So you're a different dude. So there's a little bit more going on there than the music. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot, but there's no money in. Is there money in music, Howard? I've been.
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
Drake and Kanye may say yes to that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I like is when I hear things like the guy who owns Spotify is like a billionaire, and the guy is not a musician,
right?
And you know what I mean. And I'm thinking to myself, he doesn't have some other thing on the side. He's made this money from Spotify. Well, who's he made the money off of? He's made the money off all the musicians that are on Spotify. He's taken their money and he's put it in his bank account.
I think that's called a pimp, Howard, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Pretty sure. Now, Todd, I got to ask you then, did you meet Howard first or did you meet Jimmy Hart first? Do you recall?
I think Howard and I had done some things in your studio.
Yeah, we met right at the beginning. It's funny how things sort of happened. It was 93, Todd, that I went to Morrisound.
Oh.
And and we had met, but that's where the connection came in. And you must have been, because you were singing on Hulk's album. Right? I was at the studio, right? That was right around when I came in. I wasn't involved with Hulk's album, but that's where I met Jimmy and everybody else. And
I see.
then that's, yeah. So Todd was already, I would say the connection for this stuff, Todd would have met Jimmy first. Yeah.
Yep.
Even if we'd known each other before that, the wrestling stuff would have had nothing to do with it until Jimmy was involved. I mean,
Yep.
it's a long time ago. I barely.
It's a little fuzzy right now.
Yeah, it is a little fuzzy. Well, I was on the
Only
road
been-
the first 4 years that I lived in Florida. I never worked in Florida. I went to the airport to go to work. So, you know, I was used to say, hey, if I'm working, I'm going to TIA. Off I go. And but anyway, but that's so. Like I said, Todd and I think had made acquaintance, but the actual working together happened right after Hulk's album.
Now I got to ask you, Todd, before meeting these characters, and they are truly characters because I've met Howard, I've met Jimmy, and you guys are a fun, eclectic bunch. Did you have any exposure to the world of wrestling before meeting these two?
Well, of course. I mean, not in the sense. I mean, I watched it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
You know, I when I was, you know, a teenager, young teen, maybe, you know, 10 to 13, I was really into it. But I mean, I used to go to the Fort Homer Hesterly Armory in Tampa, and they had midgets and women and, you know, the Briscoe brothers, and that's I think where Dusty Rhodes came in.
Yeah.
Now that
actually, you know what? There used to be a gym next door to Morrisound. That was part of the connection, was the fact that some of the guys were going next door to Morrisound to work out. And then I'm sure it was Jimmy that put the two together. It's like, oh my guys, the guys are working next door and the studio's right here. So if I can snag them when they're before or after the gym, then it makes life easy, you know?
Yeah.
I remember it there for a little while. I mean, that's the early days for sure.
Do you recall now, Todd, some of your favorite wrestlers growing up since you were watching it as a teen?
Gosh.
Goes back
Well,
a bit of time,
like I said, the Briscoe brothers, Jack Briscoe, and Dusty Rhodes.
So now, did you ever envision watching wrestling as a teen that you would be involved directly in wrestling and helping to create theme songs?
Not a chance. Not in a million years. But I don't know how I did.
But I mean, I really don't. It's only going to be one of those situations where, you know, you happen to be at a certain place at a certain time and somebody says, I need this.
That's exactly what happened. That's because we were recording eyewitness stuff in Morrisound, and Jimmy came in and said, I need a singer and guitar player that we can, you know, do this new song that he wrote. And that's just right place, right time.
Yep.
Exactly right.
And that was Ralph Santalla, who's on a lot of the WCW stuff too, the early stuff.
More than I was on. And he just died, what, 5 years ago?
Yeah, unfortunately, Ralph passed now, but
in my research, I knew that he was another guy we needed for American Males. Jimmy is not available because he was singing with Howard, the backup, as backup singers for the chorus. And Ralph was the guitarist, and Ralph was not with us anymore. So we got 2 out of the 4 here.
That's it.
But the powerful voice and lyrics, Todd is the one singing them there. Now, that wasn't the first song, though, you had done with them, obviously. Do you recall offhand one of the first ones you did with Jimmy there?
Well, that was American Made. That started it all. And then there was a long line. I don't know what came first, but there's some that I just recently discovered that I didn't even know that I was on. And that was the Legends of Wrestling with Jimmy Hart.
And there was an NWO album.
NWO, The Only Way to Go.
Yep.
Crime Scene. California Sun, Self High Five. That was a German thing. And I did, yeah, a couple others, but
I messaged
American
you
Males. That's
Mhm.
the one in question today.
and it was funny because I did message you. We were texting the other day, and I told you I uncovered a rare version of Shawn Michaels' "Sexy Boy," and because the original version had Sherry Martel singing how sexy she found him, and then they felt that it'd be better to sell Shawn singing it himself and talk about how sexy he found himself, obviously.
Oh.
But somewhere along the line, they found this mystery singer who sounds like a 70s lounge singer with a hairy chest and a mustache. But he sounds not that far from you, Todd. And I thought maybe it's Todd singing that version. So I sent it to you.
How do you sound like you have a hairy chest?
Yeah.
I just,
This guy
you know.
pulled it off.
Okay.
Hold on.
Wow.
Wait, when you hear Wayne Newton, you don't picture a hairy chest right away?
Maybe
I
Tom
know
Jones.
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes, but so Todd has confirmed that he is not the mystery singer on
I
the
am
rare
not the
uncovered
mystery-
version of
No.
Sexy
Damn
Boy
it.
with Shawn Michaels.
Why
So-
couldn't I have been?
That would have been fabulous. When I met Jimmy, Jimmy was very proud to show me that there was either 7 or 8 million hits on Spotify of downloads of Sexy Boy. He was very, very proud of that. He had that right on his phone. He's like, take a look, 7 million, 7 million. Yeah. He was so happy about it. So I would say, as far as that's like the Gone with the Wind, that's the Bohemian Rhapsody of wrestling theme song, Sexy Boy. That's the song.
Could have
Yep.
been a contender.
That's it. That's
But
it.
but in a close second is this wonderful song called American Males. So, gentlemen, let's have it now. Unfiltered, the full complete story. You're living your lives. You don't know that this song exists. It's not in your life whatsoever. Howard and I talked about it in a previous episode. Let's start with you, Todd. Tell us how you came to be exposed to this song first, and what was your reaction to it?
I wish I had a great story, you know? I wish I had something I could well, I was, panhandling in the subway in New York City. No, I have nothing. I don't even remember doing these. This is 30 years ago, man.
It's
Mhm.
American Males. How can you?
I mean,
It was you, though.
they just stuck me in there in the studio and said, wind him up and let him go. And
Yeah, there was a
You
lot of that. There was a lot of that where Todd would come in. It's kind of like, now do it like this. And Todd would just be, okay. I mean, it was funny. I mean, the thing was, he was so good that instead of us having to, do a lot of massaging, and we could try things. And that's how Todd, kind of ended up being one of the guys on the team. Same thing, with his buddy Ralph from the band. I mean, the thing was, Ralph could wear any hat you put on him. If you told him to play something and sound like a country guy, he'd sound like it. And if you told him to play like Yngwie Malmsteen, he'd turn around and do that too. I mean, just a complete chameleon as far as stuff went. And the real challenge back then was we were just starting to get into using some of the new processors for guitars that we didn't have to put a stack out in the studio, because the problem was, one of the things that really helped, definitely it was a kudo for me, is my office was actually an offline studio across from the two main rooms in Morrisound, very similar sort of to what I've got here now. And that was always one of the wrinkles, was I had no ability without going across the hall to record drums or to record guitars. And then as we started getting into this, I can't wait till there's a gap in the schedule. It's like, that, Jonathan. I mean, if TV calls you and wants something, you better do it now or you don't have a job. And so we started messing with things. And that was my earliest experiences, was we actually started cutting some of the vocals and some of the guitars in my little office. I mean,
it was so tiny.
So tiny. I mean, the room was 10 by 11.
And
10 by 11.
And 3 feet on either side
was
equipment. So you were like, in a one little square.
Yeah. Turn off
Crazy.
the monitors. We put our headphones on. We're in the little room. See, it's interesting because because of the way technology's gone, a lot of new studios are actually in almost a format like that now. The new Morris Sound, they do have a couple of isolation booths, but it's really kind of like a big room that everybody can kind of be in because the technology lets you do it. When we were back in the 90s, oh my goodness, there was a lot of stuff we used to have to, phones ringing next door or something, I mean, it was always something, but you'd be very surprised how many of those wrestling themes came out of a 10 by 11 room.